What is happening, guys? This is Jake of 54 Live Podcast, your Live Golf Podcast. We want to talk to you guys about today about an opportunity that really just wanted to speak about and just have a kind of a slow talk conversation with you about. And it really comes down to and boils down to the question mark with Live Golf expansion. Live Golf, as we know, is here to stay at this point. With Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship this week, the second major of the year. He's already on a tear. He's just looking absolutely stud nuggeted up. And I just want to have a quick conversation with you about. We talked briefly on the Big Boy Pants podcast episode about the opportunities for Live Golf expansion next year and how we've heard some conversation about that. But more importantly, how there are certain markets that could be looked at, the scene, and given offers to that would be good for growing Liv's influence around the world, but more importantly, securing good young talent and giving new identities and new areas an opportunity to shine. Realistically, when I went to Live Tulsa, I saw firsthand that there are opportunities to have a few more teams out there competing and not actually affect pace of play or fan experience, while at the same time being able to build equity in the league, because obviously you boost your numbers of players, which gets them closer to that number that makes the OWGR less angry at them, and other stuff as well. I just hit my microphone. I'm so sorry, guys. Over here just bashing the microphone like an idiot. But anyway, so real talk, like let's talk about some teams that I think, some areas that really could or would make sense to actually add in there. This is just going to be a video of me talking with no changes whatsoever on the screen. So, feel free to think of this as like a podcast, like a mini podcast episode, and just have fun. Honestly, what we've seen with Live Golf is the idea of identity politics as far as picking up their teams, right? They have the All-American teams, and really, there's really four American teams out of the 12, right? You have DJ's Aces, you have Bryson's Crushers, Brooks's Smash GC, and then Phil's High Flyers. And even though there's Audubon Lahiri on the Crushers, it's very much four very American teams. Paul Casey again also on the Crushers, but again it's four American vibe teams, right? You have Stinger GC, which represents South Africa. You have Rippers, which represent Australia. You have the South American team with Torque. You have the Mexican Spanish team with Fireballs GC, and then of course you have the two European brands with the Majestics and the Cliques. Also, awkwardly enough, two of the bottom finishing teams overall. Hopefully going to see some changes in that. Otherwise, some conversations could start to happen. And then, of course, we have the Southeast Asia team. And I say it like that. It's really a mix because, like, Kevin Na's American, but Kevin Na's Korean. And then you have also, of course, Scott Vincent out there, who's from Zimbabwe, just kind of a random person on that team. And then of course Danny Lee, who's Korean but from New Zealand, and then you have Siwon Kim, who is American but South Korean also. So kind of that kind of combination mix. They're kind of the only team that's really just out there as far as the overall like identity politics goes of it. Ironheads GC. But they're still making it work, and they're still being able to build a fan base and be a part of a conversation there, which is still pretty cool to see, guys. But overall, when we talk about potential areas that are missed or opportunities that could exist, we've seen Live Golf have a pretty big impact and ability to go after brother combinations, because it's not just, hey, we're not just securing the bag for you, we're securing the bag for your brother's family, your brother's people that are in his corner. So realistically, I want to look at two groups, two identities, two nationalities that could very easily be picked up and turned into a team that could have a good fan base. One of them is going to be more of a future prospect, for a long-term build, and the other one will be kind of an immediate kind of name recognition, cash grab / more pressure on like Ryder Cup situations. So that being said, let's talk about first the Højgaard brothers, Rasmus and Nikolai Højgaard. That's right, we're talking about Denmark. Denmark has on the DP World Tour a huge influence and has been, very consistently seeing winners every single year. Over the last few years, the really young brothers that are both 22, the twin brothers of Rasmus and Nikolai Højgaard, are just two of the younger stars who are about to enter into a situation where they're going to have the opportunity to jump across the pond and go over to the PGA Tour. And sadly, with the way the DP World Tour is working, where they're basically just a farm school for the PGA Tour at this point, it may just happen where that's all that goes down, where those guys just go across, stay on the PGA Tour, and live a happy long career. They're both 22 years old. Both of them already have multiple wins in the European Tour. Rasmus has 3, Nikolai has 2, so boom. They would be a really cool opportunity to be able to make a team and make it like something brother themed as the anthem, as the theme. And maybe you don't give them the captain spot. Maybe you also target Thorbjorn or Lesson. And again, if I don't say the names correctly, I apologize. When it comes to Nordic and Scandinavian type names, it gets a little interesting, how the vowels are pronounced and everything of that nature. So I'm pronouncing it like an American. Forgive me, guys. I'm only so good. But yeah, Thorbjorn Olesen is somebody I would also target as well. He's somebody with 14 career wins. He's a little bit older, 33. Not old, but older. And 7 wins on the DP World Tour, including the Italian Open itself, which is a Rolex Series event, and then a Race to Dubai Finals Series at the Turkish Open in 2016. So this is a guy who's been around for a few more years, a little bit more opportunities, still competing, still winning. Won this year the Thailand Classic on the DP World Tour. So somebody who could also be able to kind of help them separate and say, we're no longer letting the DP World Tour just feed players over to the PGA Tour. We're going to be the people that pick them up and say, hey, we're taking over. Because Live Golf is, in my opinion, the out-and-out right number 2 tour in the world right now. The PGA Tour is still that number 1, but Live Golf is just right below it. Obviously, when it comes to majors, it's inconsequential. We're talking about overall field quality and number of players, right? And at the end of the day, it's hard to... There are more players with the PGA Tour, so it's difficult to really argue that Live Golf is better overall. You can't really argue that. But I will say that the event quality is pretty much on par, if not more fun for Live. It's way more fun for Live. But we're talking about how we can add value to Live. And so with that, a Denmark team would be pretty cool to see, giving a true identity to an area of Live Golf that's not really tackled right now, which is continental Europe. Of continental Europe, yes, you have Martin Keimer. He's a name, a former number 1 player in the world. Hasn't really been relevant in a long time. Injury prone. Still in his 30s, but injury prone. So you can't really do much with him. Bernd Wiesberger. Well-known European asset. Not well-known anywhere else. Is what it is. And then you also have Heinrich Stenson, but he's been throwing in his lot with the Majestics. So maybe you break the Majestics up and give him control of a team and pick up Thorbjorn, Nikolai, and Rasmus. Who knows? I don't know. I'd rather go with an all-Denmark team and see that kind of happen. Just because I like the vibe of the Majestics. But the Majestics also haven't been competing very well. So what do we do? I don't know. And then the other nationality that I would really like to see have an opportunity to go about. Now, obviously, we talked in the past about Japan. The Japan plan last year fell through. And then, of course, there were several Thailand players, and that kind of fell apart also, as Sadam Kalkanjana and Prachara Kanmatmai failed to maintain their qualifications to stay on the Live Golf Tour. But the other nationality that I would really like to see get an opportunity that I think could grab a lot of value for Live Golf is Italy. I know, Italy. Italy, which is a place that, by the way, that Rome has hosted or will host, I forget off the top of my head, a Ryder Cup match. And that's special. And of course, it's going to be really cool if they pick up for the leadership of the Italian team, the Molinari brothers. That's right, Francesco and Edoardo Molinari, two guys who have multiple wins on the European tour, and then of course Francesco has won a British Open, the Open Championship in 2018. He had the historic fall apart on the 2019 Masters, where he was playing next to Tiger, and Tiger won his first Masters in a long time. And he also has two wins outside of the British Open on the PGA Tour itself. So he's somebody who jumped the pond, kept playing over the pond, and then still jumps back and forth depending on the week or the event. I think it'd be really cool to see him join up with Live Golf. It gives them another major champion, another player that has a few more years of exemptions into certain majors, and that'd be a good thing for Live because they want players that have opportunities in majors while they are still sorting out their long-term legality and entry situations into majors. Very important to look at. So Francesco is a good player to pick up as far as name value, recognition, and just overall power as far as a name. So you pick up the Molinari brothers, you get a good value. Yes, they are a little older. They're not Majestics old, but they're not Torquay young, and so I get it. It's a questionable pickup, but it's one that I think has value long term, as they are again in their early 40s, not their late 40s. And of course, if they go after those two, they could pick up one more player that I think adds a lot of value to the Italian team before they have to look elsewhere potentially, and that'd be Guido Migliosi, player who's a rising star on the DP World Tour, has won 3 times on the DP World Tour, starting to get himself into a lot more opportunities. He is the player who lost in a playoff to Richard Bland. So Richard Bland's only DP World Tour event win was, of course, a loss to a win over Guido Migliosi, which that was his only European Tour win in his career. Very happy for him on that. And that'd be just a huge pickup, I think, in my opinion, for Live Golf as far as picking up 2 unrepresented nationalities right now that have a history in golf, have a place in golf, and also have a potential to expand their fan base beyond where they're at right now. Give new identity politics an opportunity, because they really can't go after and pick up more Americans and say, oh, we're representing the world. Well, you already have 4 American teams. Are you going to represent the rest of the world? You really can't. I mean, and that's not a bash against picking up more American players. It's just a representation situation. You want to be able to say that you are a league of the world. And so, yeah, in theory, I know last year they were trying to get Shergo Al-Kurdi into the situation, get an Arab world golfer in there, but it just doesn't work out right there. You can't just force somebody into the competition if they can't immediately hang in the competition. So I respect that they didn't continue pushing him forward this year. We'll see more of these opportunities emerge in the future as Live Golf expands and grows as a league. But I want to ask you guys, where do you think are opportunities for new franchises to emerge that give new market access to Live Golf that also still have an instant name recognition? Because obviously they can't just go to Bangladesh, pick up 4 golfers and say, yeehaw, let's make this happen. They can't go to Anirban Lahiri and say, hey, do you want to get off the Crashers and pick up 3 Indian guys and we'll make a team for you? It doesn't work that way. You have to have at least something of a build-up, something of a name value, something of a start point. And these 2 nationalities have a start point available for them if they can pick the right players up. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.